Hey, what's up? It's Matt. We're back with another expert roundup. This time I am down in sunny Tampa, but I'm talking to a gentleman that you should know from Australia, Allan. What's going on, Allan?
Hey, Matt, pleasure to be on. How are you?
I'm amazing. It's a pleasure to hook up with you and get you on here because I've listened to the book. I haven't read it. I've listened to it. So I guess that counts as reading it maybe.
It
But
does.
I love a lot of your concepts. I love everything you do. I guess tell the audience who you are and a little bit about yourself.
So I'm the author of a book called The One Page Marketing Plan. I work with businesses all over the world to help them develop their own marketing capability. So that's essentially what I do day in, day out.
And you said Melbourne, Australia right now?
I'm in Melbourne, Australia. That's right. Yeah. So we've just finished our summer, so I'm a bit sad.
So a couple things that stood out in the book to me that I want to talk about today that I usually try and cover one, two, three topics in these, but there was three that really stuck out to me. The first one is avatars. I want to tell you my story and then let you dig into it, the importance of having an avatar. My background is radio advertising from a long time ago here in the States. And
Nice.
there was a radio station in Cincinnati, WLW, that the program director, Dale Parks, had a cardboard cutout on the wall in his office. And his rule was the DJs, whenever they went on air, it was a talk radio station, whenever you go on the air, you walk in my office, you look at that avatar, and it's
Mm.
his name, how many kids, what kind of car, how much money, what kind of house he lives in. It's a deep avatar. For example, you talked about in the book, Max Cash and his assistants. So I guess talk about the importance of an avatar and how businesses can develop that to really help their business.
Mm. Look, an avatar is critical for really understanding who your customer is, what their day is like. So I think the great copywriter Gary Halbert said that we want to enter the conversation going on in the mind of our customer. And so to do that, we need to be in their
Yep.
shoes somewhat. So an avatar is a great tool that really helps us do that. And I think of an avatar like a composite sketch. Like if you witness a crime and then you're sitting with a sketch artist and you're trying to describe the person, he'll start with, okay, how tall was he? What was he wearing? Did he have a beard? Did blue eyes, red eyes, or whatever? Not red eyes, but blue eyes, green eyes, or whatever else. What color hair did he have? All of that sort of stuff. So, an avatar can really help us get that composite of our ideal client. Now, it's not going to be exactly what every one of our clients is like, but it's going to be
Yeah.
very, very close. It's the ideal that we're shooting for. It's the ideal customer that we're looking for in terms of revenue, in terms of geography, in terms of demographics, in terms of psychographics, all of those sorts of things. So really understanding our customer at a deep level will help us then with our messaging. It's going to help us with our offer. It's going to help make everything much more accurate and land better.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we have as a cheat sheet nowadays is being able to look at Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Google and see the people that are engaging the most with your content online and be able to understand like there's some parts that help your avatar. I had a client recently I was talking to that we did some pretty good analysis on them with the marketing we run on their behalf, and he didn't realize how much his audience was female. He's like, man, Matt,
Mm,
this is just the basic thing, male and female. That's the most basic part
yeah,
of the avatar. It's probably where you start, male or female.
yeah,
And he's
yeah.
like, I looked at our past month's advertising, and 90% of the stuff the past month related to men, but yet 83% of the people on Facebook
Mm.
and Instagram on our page are women.
Mm, very, very true. Very, very true. And often when you survey your audience and you try to get a better understanding of your audience, either through a deep dive survey or through either formal or informal research, you're going to have some surprises. It's rare that I've done this process with a client and we haven't come up with some surprises. They're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize most of our audience are much older, or I didn't realize most of our audience are this kind of job or whatever else. So really understanding your audience at a deep level is just so important because all of your other stuff is going to flow from that. Whether you have an offer that really converts, where you advertise, how you advertise, your messaging, everything's going to depend on who. So, and really understanding that who at a
Yep.
deep level is so important.
Yep. I agree. So my second part is I think a lot of businesses miss on this. They focus on features and benefits
Yeah.
versus either the pain or joy. You know, my background a while back, we had a boat and RV dealership for 9 years, and a lot of people weren't really buying the bass fishing boat for the paint for the features of it. They were buying it to spend time with their son or their wife on the water and create memories. And like your example in the book talked about the pain maybe of selling a TV. And what's ironic about it is that you
Mm.
talked about, hey, the pain is the person doesn't, they don't want to have to carry the thing home, get it in their car, hang it. Our house we live in right now, we moved into it about 5 years ago. And I
Mm.
was dumb enough to put the TV up myself. And I'll never forget, I came about an inch, like this far from falling off a ladder, holding a 70-inch TV, trying to hang it. And I remember getting done with that and going, man, I wish these guys offered a service like that. And maybe they did. I mean, I wouldn't listen. But
Yeah.
talk about features and benefits versus hitting a pain point in marketing.
Yeah. Too often we fall in love with our product, and I tell my clients, fall in love with your customers. That's
Okay.
really critical. So understand what their day is like and where your product or service fits in their day. So what we want to do is be that pain relief. And when we think about pain relief, like when you've got a migraine, you've got a splitting headache, does the pharmacist need to convince you to buy the pain relief? Do they have to sell you hard or anything? You probably don't even look at the cost or anything like that. You just want
Yeah.
that pain relief as soon as possible, and you want to be done with it. And so, the same way, so many times I see businesses and websites, even e-commerce stores, where it's just difficult to deal with you, where you're creating pain, you're creating friction, and so what we want to do is use technology to remove or reduce friction. You know, so many times I've been, uh, I've seen a product that I'm interested in. I go to the checkout, then they want you to register, then they want you to your firstborn son and all of this sort of stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I can't be bothered with this. They're just creating too much friction. I want people, and conversely, I've seen, for example, e-commerce stores and scenarios where it's so easy, it's so painless. Like a lot of Shopify stores these days, it's a great example because I enter my email address and then automatically, no matter what Shopify store I go to, my credit card details are populated, my shipping address, everything like that. So literally, it's just so easy and frictionless, and I go through the whole checkout process. I don't have to deal with anything. And the same can be true of restaurant businesses. The same can be true of consulting businesses. I've had both very good and very bad experiences. Ones where they're just taking me through a very difficult process and creating a lot of friction, putting a lot of roadblocks in the way, whereas other times it's just so smooth and so easy. And so you want to have a look at every touch point, that it's easy and frictionless to work with you, that you're the pain relief, that you're not creating friction, that you're not creating pain. Because people ultimately, even if they want to deal with you, they'll say, yeah, look, I'll get to that later. And of course, later never happens. You know, if I don't know about you, but I've got 100 different tabs open on my browser, and every tab kind of represents an intention to come back to that website, right? And that'll
Yeah.
probably never happen. You know, my browser will probably crash or my computer crash, and I'll probably never get there. So, so exactly the same is true of your clients. Look at all the points where you're getting friction or you're creating friction for your clients. And I think in a restaurant business, that is so important. I mean, there are so many ways where you can either create or remove friction in those scenarios.
Yeah. Oh, I ran into one the other day, and this was not of her fault. It was an old, very old mom and pop beach town restaurant, small. I mean, really small around the beach in Fort Myers, Florida. And the guy in front of me only had credit card. They don't take. He didn't have any cash on him, and they have a whole policy. You
Yeah,
$6 or more credit card transaction. He's
very
like,
common.
I'm only getting a coffee. I don't have any cash on me. And it made this very weird back and forth. And she eventually
Yes.
said, well, it's no big deal. We'll go ahead and do it this time. But it really
Yeah.
made him feel like this big because the line's behind him. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes that friction can cause a lot. Might make him not come back again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean that's one very very good example. The handwritten cash only sign or whatever, and
Yep.
just the experience of ordering, the experience of receiving your order, all of those things. Every touch point you want to see: am I creating friction or am I removing friction? It's one of the
Yep.
reasons why these food delivery services have just blown up so much because they've removed a whole bunch of friction. I tap a couple of
Yep.
buttons on my phone and my food
Yep.
arrives. I mean, you've removed friction. That's why Uber has blown up because again, you tap a couple of buttons and the car arrives to your location. You don't have to hail a cab,
Yep.
pay cash, tips, all of that sort of stuff, and there's a rating system built in. So whenever you look at businesses or industries that are really growing at an exponential level, it's likely that they've removed a lot of friction. They probably use technology to remove friction, and
Yep.
they're really growing at an exponential level because they've done those things.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. It's amazing. My son, even though he's got a car and he can drive 5 blocks away to the Chipotle, he orders Chipotle through DoorDash and gets delivered to the house. He's like, oh, it's easy. Just click a button, it shows up. I'm
Exactly.
like, okay, that's cool, but you also just spent $8 to get it to show up. Why don't you get on your
Yep.
out of your off your butt and go down the street? But they've made it so freaking easy.
They have. They have. They have. So the lesson really is just looking at every touch point with your customer, the payment, the delivery, the every interaction, and just making it really frictionless. I'm just consistently surprised. I shouldn't be surprised anymore, but I'm always surprised at how difficult people make it to get paid. So like anything from the cash only sign to having to fill in forms or do something manually or whatever, or wire transfers or whatever. There are so many technologies now that help us get paid so quickly and easily and frictionlessly, and people just keep putting up roadblocks. I mean, if there's one place in your business that you want to make really, really easy and frictionless, it's the bit where you get paid.
The number one way. I saw one the other day. My accountant, I hadn't paid attention to this, but he invoiced me the other day for some tax work, and I liked it. I literally his invoice said "click here to pay." I
Yeah,
clicked, it popped up, it
that's
populated
it.
my information already in my computer. I hit submit. He's paid. It wasn't like here's your invoice, please mail a check. It was because
Yes,
I wouldn't have
exactly,
printed off the invoice. I would have forgot about it. So yeah,
exactly.
make it easy. So my last point, this dovetails perfectly into it. You're talking about how easy third party delivery has made things. My last point stuck out to me more than anything because my dad always uses the whole concept of you would never build a house on a sand foundation because your house would eventually
Mm,
sink. Well, I like to use the analogy that your marketing plan shouldn't be built on a sand base. You got to have a strong foundation. A lot of businesses miss the strong foundation. But what I liked what you talked about was having a lot of different touch points. Yeah, because like a high heel sinks in the blacktop pretty easily, but a gym shoe
mm,
doesn't because there's more surface. Well, when
yeah.
COVID hit last year, or I guess a year ago this week actually, when it hit here in the States, I had been telling restaurants for years, you need to have an email database to market with.
Yep.
You need to have a text database to market with. You need to have an active social media presence. You need to have a YouTube channel. You need to have third-party delivery. You need to have an online ordering. And so many of them like, oh, I'm good, I'm good. Well, then COVID hits, and the only way they were getting revenue was by people walking in the front door. Well, guess what was happening
Mm.
anymore? They weren't walking in the front door. So talk about your concept of not having just one strategy that not only acquires sales but acquires customers.
Yeah, this is so common. In almost every business I see that I've worked with, they have one source of leads, one key supplier, one is a very dangerous number in business because one can go to zero very, very quickly, as we've seen with COVID, as we've seen with many different situations over the years. And so if you've got one main source of leads, I'm not saying cut that off, but can we create two, three, four, five different source of leads of revenue? So a lot of businesses back in the day were fully reliant on Google for ads. A lot of businesses still are. Then Google changed their algorithm or changed their rules, or they don't like this or that. Goodbye, business gone to zero. Same with Facebook. You used to be able to reach all of your people who liked your page. Then they said, no, now we want you to pay and boost those posts, or else we're not going to be able to reach your audience. So, whenever you're reliant on a third party, particularly, you don't want to have one single source of leads, one single source of customers. Jay Abraham talks about the pantheon, so having different columns that are supporting your business. So, multiple sources of leads, multiple key people in your business that can do the same role, multiple suppliers who can supply you. So making sure that you're able to de-risk your business and not be single source dependent, because that's a very, very dangerous way to play. We don't want a single source of leads. And in the restaurant business, again, I'm amazed. I think in the last decade, I've been asked for my phone number or email address maybe twice by a restaurant that I've
Yeah,
dined at,
yeah,
even restaurants that I dine at regularly.
yeah,
Nobody's building
yep,
lists, nobody's keeping in touch with clients. They're just
yep,
relying on walk-ins and people remembering to come back. Crazy.
yeah. Yeah, one of the books I'm working on in the future is called Hope and Pray Marketing. I've got a theory I call aim and expect. Stop hoping and praying. Stop hoping somebody had a good
Yeah,
meal. Stop praying they remember you.
yeah,
Get their information, aim at a very specific customer that's in your database, and expect them to walk in. These guys I'm with back here actually own 30 plus restaurants. And that's what we're
oh
down here
wow,
talking about is how
that's
do we
awesome.
gather more information? Because if somebody's taking the effort to walk in your front door, why the heck don't you have their name, phone number, birthday, gender, their visit frequency, their favorite food, they're
Absolutely.
married, they're single? That's what's going to keep you in business in 5 years versus just hoping people go, yeah, you know what, that sounds good tonight.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Even those that have loyalty programs generally don't do anything with that data. It's just like they stamp the card. Okay, you've come in and got another burrito today. They
Yeah.
don't use that data. I mean, they've got your name, they've got your email address, they've got all of that stuff, and yeah, hardly ever hear from them if ever. It's just amazing. This is just money that they're leaving on the table.
Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. What's the best way people can contact you? What's the way to find you? Obviously, the book is available a lot of places online, including Amazon and those places. The one page marketing plan. How can people reach out to you, and who's your ideal client that should reach out to you?
Yeah, so we work with small business owners, anyone doing under $10 million of revenue. We've got different programs for different levels. The one-page marketing plan, that the book, it's incredibly popular on audio, so it's on Audible if you'd like to listen to it. It's on Kindle and all the other platforms if you want to read it. To get in touch with us, successwise.com. So and yeah, so we'd love to hear from anybody. Really, I'd encourage people to start with a marketing plan, because if you're doing any kind of marketing or thinking about doing any kind of marketing, same as building a house, you want to start with a blueprint. You're not going to start building a house just randomly laying bricks. You want to
Yeah.
start with a marketing plan. And so I've created a process that makes that super easy. In literally a single page, you can start putting together a sophisticated marketing plan. You can download the one-page marketing plan canvas at successwise.com. I'd love to see what happens from some of the people creating marketing plans from that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time and look forward to maybe one day down the road meeting you when the things open up and we can fly places. But I appreciate your
I would love
time
that,
and
man.
love the book. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so
Thanks, Alan.
much.